Hello, today I'm going to take you through a journey of my new app, which is called, what is it called? Oh yeah, PCS Fx, and it's going to be a very long video, so I apologize for that. I could break it up into multiple parts, but I decided to just record the whole thing. You'll see all of the effects that PCS Fx can generate. Basically, it's a graphical generation tool using AI to create almost unlimited number of effects and graphics because of the nature of how AI works. So what I put together is an app that allows you to take an image or create an image easily and then use these different effects to create a different version of that particular image. That's the easiest way to describe it. It's definitely become my favorite app of all the apps I created. This is the last one and definitely my favorite because I just can't stop playing with it all the time, creating graphics for social media, creating graphics for websites, for clients, for blogs. It's basically unlimited fountain of graphic generation tools. And so I absolutely love it because it's so simple and at the same time it's so useful and so capable. With that, sit down, take a cup of coffee or something else, and it's going to be over an hour long, hopefully not too much longer than an hour, and go through my PCS Fx. If you like it, obviously you can purchase it. The link will be down below. And if you don't like it, I'd love to hear some comments about what is it that you don't like and also what you would like to see added to it. I'd really appreciate that. And with that, here's the overview, detailed overview of PCS Fx 2.0. Thank you very much for taking the time. Here's PCS Fx. Today we're going to go through all the effects in PCS Fx 2.0. I'll give a little overview of the layout here and what you can do with it. Pretty simple. And then we will go through every single effect and see what it does. So the interface is what you see right here. Don't get overwhelmed. It's actually not as bad as it looks. It's actually pretty simple. At the top here you see several things, categories, different things like that, and you can see most of the stuff is completely disabled. You can't do anything to start with. The reason for this is because it doesn't know what to work with. You don't have an image loaded yet, so it doesn't know what to do. Okay, so that's the first thing to do, is to potentially create an image. The only thing that it is open right now is this custom prompt. You can prompt PCS Fx to do anything you wish, and it's going to do it accordingly without any of these effects or anything else. And then of course you can add the effects later as you see fit. So that's the only thing you can do right now, is either load an image or do a custom prompt. Now, in terms of loading the images, you have several different ways to do it. One way to do this is the usual. You click here where it says to click. It opens up a window here with all different, whatever you have in terms of pictures or anything else. You pick a picture you want and you go from there. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is you can drag an image. Okay, so if I open up, let's say I open up one of my folders here and I drag an image here, then it loads it and shows it in this original placeholder. So now we can work with this image. Now, as you can see, everything lit up here on the left. Now we can do all these different effects. Okay, so that's the second way to do it. The third way to do it is to simply paste. I can copy an image. Let's copy an image on the side here, hit copy, and then I'm just going to click him and I hit Control V, and there's my image right there. Okay, so very simple. Either you click on the original box in the middle to load an image. You can also click on Load Image down below, which will give you the same prompt here, and from there you can go ahead and pull up an image and it'll load it, and then you can work on it. That's the first thing, is you need to populate the original with something, unless you're going to use custom prompt. Okay, once you get it done, then you have all these different options on the left you can choose from, and whatever effects you choose, the actual result will show in this result box. Very simple. So we're going to bypass these two for now. These are a little bit more advanced, but all of these effects, there's over 40 effects. See, if I scroll, it shows you all these different effects, and they have a little color coding. So if I click on here, this artistic, then it only shows these artistic effects. If I click on drawing, it'll show me all the drawing. And the color here is the color it shows on the left side. So if you click on all, you see all of them. So that's one way to do it, is you just simply select one of these categories and then it shortens the list for you. So all you have to do is, in this case, pick from 2. If you click on tools, you only have 2, 4, 6, 7. It just makes it a little bit easier to work with when it's like that. Okay? Obviously, you have a choice. However you want to select them, it's totally up to you. If you want to have all of them always visible and just be able to look at whichever one you want to use, that's not a problem at all. Another way how you can select it to make it easier, if I, for example, want to use something like Picasso effect, I just type in PI, for example, and Picasso style comes up. And then once it comes up, I can click on it to use it. So any of the effects, if I want to use, like one of them, my favorite is Russian Chikanka, is actually spelled like this in English apparently. It comes up, but anything else that matches will come up. So I have letters RE in the effect I was looking for, but also in stone sculpture and this one, that. So the more letters you type in, like if I type in something like the name of my favorite artist there, it'll come up like that. You can use the search to find the effect much quicker. So this is how you get to the effects. Let's say we wanted to do a pencil sketch, for example. I just start going down the list. And so you click on the effect. Once the image is loaded, you just basically let it do its job. At this point, you need to wait until it gets done. It's not horribly slow, but at the same time, it's not instantaneous either. So depending on the effects, depending how complicated they are, will determine how fast it's going to be. But usually it's not bad depending on the picture size. So this is what pencil sketch would look like from this picture. Okay, Catherine looks great. May she rest in peace. But you can do that. Then we have the color pencil effect, is the next one. And I'm intentionally not fast forwarding the video so you can see and get a feel of how long it takes to generate these images. And like I said, I wish it was faster, but at the same time, it's not so bad. It's definitely workable. So this is what, from this image on the left, this is what the color pencil might look like. As you can see, it preserves very well the quality of the original image, and at the same time allows you to still use the effect. I use color pencil all the time for creating gifts for people. You print it out in a big format, for example, or even 8 by 10, drop it into some kind of frame, and it's a beautiful gift. Very nice. Kids, animals, people, business stuff. I mean, all of this is, you can use. Vibrant color pencil looks like this. By the way, if you're wondering about her photo that I have over there, I grabbed it from online, and then I used PCS Fx to create an effect, which will be one of the effects you'll see later. And that's how the image on the left was created initially. So this is what vibrant color pencil looks like. So it's similar to color pencil, but a little bit more pop to it. Beautiful effect. I use it all the time. And then we have the notebook sketch. And notebook sketch looks like if somebody had a ruled notebook or even just white paper, had the talent to draw this image, it would look something like, which you will see shortly here, like that. And each of these effects can be done multiple times. Okay, it's going to try to remain similar, but it'll be slightly different. So if I was to click on the Let's Do That Again button down below, my favorite button, you will see that it'll change the image. It's going to use the same effect. I didn't have to click on anything else, but it's going to change the image slightly. And I just want to show you so you can see the difference. See, it looks a little bit different than the old one did. Okay? And if I do it again, let's do it one last time, then potentially it's going to change the paper to be without any lines. So it's like a notebook paper, but with just blank background. So you can't tell it what to do in terms of specifically what is it going to do next. The only thing you can do is generate a different result by clicking Let's Do That Again. And of course, any of these images that you generate, you can save the result by clicking on the Save Result button at the bottom there. So let's say that it generates this. Again, see, it looks definitely different than the last one did. Still has the lines. And then I can just click on Save Result. And then it's going to go ahead and save it. And if we pull up this file, it looks something like this. And it generates at high enough res where you can upscale it more if you want, but you can definitely print it, put it on t-shirts, do whatever you want to do with it. Very nice, like I said, very nice way to do gifting like that. The next effect is color chalk. That's if she was drawn with a color chalk on the pavement somewhere. She might look like this. The next one is black and white chalk, which is also a very kind of striking way to get color pictures to look in black and white. I created some portraits, like even my portrait. It looks awesome. It does just absolutely phenomenal job. Black and white chalk looks like this. All right, so next thing we're going to do, we're going to switch gears a little bit so it's not all the same, even though we don't have to, but we are. I showed you what the load new image does. Then also there's I feel lucky. And that's another thing you can do without loading anything. You just say I feel lucky. And what it's going to do is going to actually generate randomly some sort of an image. Okay? I'm not telling it anything. I'm just saying do it. And now you can see it generates something that looks like this, which is pretty decent actually. If we click on I feel lucky again, then we have this kind of image. As you can see, it has nothing to do with fish, totally different colors. Click again. You can do this all day long basically to generate just random images of no particular, for some reason it likes to generate fish, I don't know why. But anyway, you get stuff like that. And then of course you can then at this point, now that it's loaded in the original, now from this point you can go and select what's our next effect. Here would be coloring book. Select coloring book, for example. And what coloring book does, it creates a black and white version of the image. So you can print it, give it to the kids to color, or they can use some kind of a digital painting program to color it too. So it's a way to create nice materials for your children to be able to do coloring, or if that's what you like to do in your pastime, you can do it too. And notice it didn't make it completely black and white. It's got some color in there already. And so what I can do is I can click on, let's do that again. And it's going to create a different version of what I did before. Yeah, see, this is much better. This is basically what I wanted to have. So sometimes if it's not perfect the way you want it to be, you can just run it again. This is perfect coloring book page. That's what it does. Okay, and let's move on to the next one, which is watercolor. Now remember, it's always working from the left to the right. So it's going to be basing watercolor on this color image, not the black and white image generated. Okay? I would definitely recommend saving results for everything you generate just to be on the safe side, because you can't easily get back to what you had before. So if you do it and then you do another generation and it's different, you want to go back to the prior one, right now there's no way to do it. So I recommend saving images so you can see exactly what's going on. As you can see, the watercolor didn't do much to this particular image. We'll load something else and see if it does a better job there. So I'm going to generate another I feel lucky one, and because I want to show you what watercolor looks like, I'm going to go ahead and drag an image of me with this quote, and let's say we want to do a watercolor in that. I think it'll probably do a pretty good job. So this image, by the way, was created using the quote effect, which I'm going to show you soon. Let's try this one, see what happens. I'm going to drag another image here. I'm going to hit watercolor. Oh yeah, okay, this is a little bit more like I was going to show you. So you can see over here it's got these splotches of paint around and stuff, so it looks a little bit more like a watercolor effect. If I do it again, it's going to do it a little bit different this time. But I just basically wanted to show you that's the kind of look I was going for, and trying to show you that you can take something that's fairly rigid, and if you use watercolor, it creates this kind of effect to go with it. And so it does different things to different images, but it's in some cases it's very nice. Okay, let's just continue with this image. We'll click on surrealism, add some strange things to the images. And with every effect you selected, you always see it up at the top here. So this is what the surrealism looks like for that particular image. So it keeps parts of it. As you can see, PCS Fx is gone, but the JFK is still there, and it's got all this other weird stuff in there that kind of looks cool, but at the same time, it's called surrealism for a reason. And if I do it again, then you'll see a completely different picture again. It knows what the main focus of the image, original image was, and then based on that, it's going to generate the new one with that in place. You never lose your original main things in your original images, but it will change it potentially, like this here. So we got him sleeping. I mean, it's, you can see it's, people say it doesn't have creativity. Absolutely, it has creativity with this. And of course, if you imagine trying to draw this, even if you're talented, it would take you quite a long time to draw something like this, with all these intricate details in the letters and the fills and the fish and all these other details. Basically, it's pretty cool. So what else can we do with this thing? One more thing that we can do, with any image is down below here next to I feel lucky. We have a button called swap result with the original. So what I can do is I can click on it, and now whatever was on the right goes over to the left, and now we can actually work with this image. So whatever you're generating, you can save it, is one way to do it, but you can also flip it and then you start continuing to work on that. And so potentially you can think of it as this combined effect. Instead of working with one image and creating all these different effects, and of course they will change every time you click on let's do that again to some degree, you can also combine things. So you create an effect, you like it, move it over to the other side by doing a swap, and then continue to work on that. So it's kind of like a compound effect of various graphical effects, which is super cool. So right now let's do abstract art. That was surrealism, now we're doing abstract art. And now we're working on this image. It looks like this. It added all kinds of lines here and there, and definitely added some stuff in there. So if we go and say let's do that again, just to show you that every time you run this through, it will generate different results. Same effect, same concept, but it will look different. And of course, same original. And depending on what you're using, in some cases, it won't change it that much. It just depends on the original image and depends what the effect you're trying to use. But typically, it will definitely change it, and you just keep running it through and have all kinds of variants potentially. So let's go ahead and select pop art, see what that looks like. One thing I wanted to mention, that as we're going through this, like this particular image, we basically came out from, I guess originally I set it up as a logo, using the logo feature. But essentially what I'm trying to say is that you can get very nice imagery done from nothing. It's not just a matter of dragging something in or copying something in or loading something in and then working on it to create these pretty amazing looking results. You can actually come up with something from nothing and then just work on that without anything being the origin. So this is what pop art looks like in this case. If I do it again, it'll make it a little bit different. Usually that works better on like portraits and some other pictures too. It just depends on the image. Like I said, it's impossible to tell what it's going to do, but most of the time it does create some pretty compelling results. So that's what pop art looks like on this one. And if we go to one of my favorite artists there, he was famous for doing things with the knives to paint, and he was pasting stuff. Let's say we do this, and let's apply his effect again, a frame of. What's the gentleman's name? You can see it adds some vibrant colors there at the top, and at the bottom you can see the reflections, all of that, which is slick. I'm just going to jump into some news site here, and I will pull in image of the Everly brothers. See what I mean? Very vibrant in terms of colors, and different images come out differently, but this gives you an idea. You can get some interesting results with this particular effect. So let's see, this looks a little different, but you can see it's like the colors were painted with some sort of a spatula type device, which is what he was using to paint, and it creates that kind of look to it. Very nice. Next one is Picasso, and Picasso is something that some people like, some people dislike, but kind of what they call cubism, so it's got that kind of look to it. You can see everything that was there in the original image, but you can see this is changed to in this kind of interesting fashion. Then we got Dali, which I personally like a lot, and you're going to see some strange stuff here. It's almost like a combination of abstract and surrealism and in one. So there's Dali type example. You know, he had a lot of things that are kind of dripping, and he had clocks, and he had eggs, different things like that. So this is one of them. If I do one more time, you'll see a completely different image of the guys. There you go. So that's Dali example. And then we've got, let's see what else we have next. Then we got Nagel, Patrick Nagel, who was a famous poster maker for different companies, including Playboy magazine. And that was his typical look he would create. So that's Nagel. Then we have, there's a Russian art style for jewelry boxes that they used to use back in the old days. And it makes it look like this. Okay, if we go ahead and load a different image, let's go ahead and copy an image of my friend Jessica in here. A very nice looking lady, and let's apply this effect to her, and now she looks like this. So that's this palette style. a Russian art style. And you can see it looks like a little box basically, because you usually do it for jewelry box. And if I do that again, it'll create something a little different, but same concept. I mean, there's a lot of black in there, a lot of gold in there, and there you go. It made it like it's a little frame and stuff. It does a beautiful job, a very interesting and nice effect. Then we've got something that I use for holidays, which is called caricature. So hopefully Jessica won't kill me after seeing this. So it just creates a caricature of the image. Then we have vibrant line art, which is a very nice effect. And typically it does a beautiful job. So there's the vibrant line art. And so that's one version. And if I click on it again, it'll generate a slightly different, but still very compelling version of how it does these line art. See? Very nice. Beautiful job. All right, next we have stipple portrait. Now this one makes everything black and white, but in a very kind of unique way. And with portraits especially, it does a really, really nice job. See, it makes it look like this. So it's not exactly black and white, because it has all these little dots and stuff inside, but you can still see the image. It's almost like a dot matrix type effect. But it's a very effective, interesting effect to use. Then we're gonna turn Jessica into a stone sculpture. You can see right there, looks like she's made out of stone. Let's try it one more time. Yeah, I don't think she's gonna like that one. But stone sculpture is an interesting thing. Let's do a different image. You can see it. Sometimes it creates exceptional looking things. So if we do a stone sculpture out of this image here, this looks like something right out of Star Wars. Yeah, definitely looks like it's made out of stone. Pretty cool. And then the next one is marble sculpture. And that's also kind of cool to do on people, because it creates like a bust, marble bust from a particular person. Yeah, that's a beautiful shot right there. And so you just need to play with it and see which ones you like, which ones you don't like. And that's one of the things, you just get addicted to this. Let's do it again, let's do it again, let's do it again. Because they're all different, they all look compelling. Most of them anyway. And so there's a little different, but you can still see it looks pretty cool. And if we drop Jessica back in there so you can see what the person would look like, and do the marble sculpture again. Sometimes it makes it green, sometimes it makes it black, and sometimes it makes it white right there. See, it's a beautiful sculpture effect. Very nice. Okay, then we've got gold foil emboss, which does exactly what it says. There's Jessica in gold. She could do the next version of Goldfinger. And the image you initially saw of Catherine was using this wood engraving effect. It's like in the old days people used to burn things using magnifying glass. That's basically what it makes it look like. And it's on this piece of wood here, but if I click again, it's going to show it with a little different piece of wood, so it's going to be, again, slightly different. And every iteration you make is going to be a little different. So see, this looks like a different piece of wood. So Jessica stays Jessica, that doesn't change, but the wood changes. And it's awesome effect. And then one of my favorite effects also that I saw originally back in the old country, in Russia they call it chikanka. That's the one that basically looks like an image beaten by a chisel into a piece of metal. Some people find it eerie. I think it looks really nice. And if we do non-person effect, let's do I Feel Lucky, and then we'll do the effect on that. Again, depending on the situation, it may or may not look good, but a lot of times it looks awesome, especially if you rerun it several times. Yeah, you don't really see the effect here too much. Let's do it one more time. And see, sometimes it comes up with these backgrounds. I didn't ask it for any background with stones in it or anything like that, but it did anyway. And so it definitely has this creativity gene in PCS Fx. So there's another one that looks different. Let's load this picture here. And let's do effect on this. See what that comes out looking like. This is just a screenshot, as you can see. See, this is what it makes it look like. So that's one way to do it. A lot of times I just take a grab piece of screen with some text on it and then drop it in, and that's what I actually post, because I just don't want to post just the text by itself. But see how it took the image itself here and how it looks just like the image here, but look how nice it looks and very compelling. Let's do one more. And so it looks a little bit different than this one. Then we have paper art that looks like this. That's what paper art looks like. Now that we're about halfway into it, I'd like to take a moment to pause So you can take a little break if you'd like, and then come back, continue. But before we continue, I'd like to thank Higgsfield for sponsoring this part of the video. Higgsfield is somebody I've heard about before, but never actually did too much with, just maybe dabbled a little bit with it. And they reached out and wanted to sponsor the video. So I started looking more seriously into their offerings, and in many ways it's very similar to what I do with PCS Fx, but it's like their version is PCS Fx on steroids. They have a lot more stuff. They have not just image generation, but also they have video generation. In the next few minutes, I'm going to go through and take you through some of the features and options that they have to offer. And it's a very compelling package, I can tell you that. It's amazing what you can do with Higgsfield. And they're using all the popular models that are out there in addition to their own stuff. Definitely worth looking into, without any question. And I'm not just saying it because they're sponsoring this video, but because it is a very compelling package. Let's go ahead and take a dive into the Higgsfield, and then we'll continue with PCS Fx. Higgsfield is a company that is sponsoring this part of my video. It's going to take way too much time to go through everything, but I'm going to try to do the best I can. Higgsfield reached out and asked if I want to sponsor their application, and I've heard about them before, but I haven't really done anything. And so I thought I'd take a look and see what's going on here. I'm going to be using PCS Fx images to do some examples. At first, when you get into it, it's totally overwhelming. It's just like, oh my God, you got a zillion different things moving. You got all kinds of animations, you got all kinds of videos, very colorful, as you can see. You scroll through it, there's all kinds of different things that they show what they can do, tons and tons of options. You got buttons, you got images. It's overwhelming to start with. So the thing to do is just not to get overwhelmed and basically go through and see what it's good for. This is the Explore tab, and that's where you can see a variety of different informational pieces about what they have. And you can launch some of the effects and some of the capabilities they have directly from here. Next tab is Image. And if you hover over it, they have very many different effects and capabilities built into image part of it. You can create images, you can create storyboards, you can relight things, you can do in-painting, do image upscaling, you can do face swaps. All these different things you can do from here by just simply selecting it and then using it. The only problem I had with this is just so many options that initially you just get completely lost. The best thing I'd recommend to do is just go one by one if you're going to subscribe to them, and just go through and try different options and then see which ones work the best. Like for example, maybe you wanted to do in-painting. Okay, so as you can see, if you go to in-painting, it changes the URL. And so what I'd recommend to do here is you simply grab this URL and bookmark it. If I go to any other option, doesn't matter what I go to, over here, and then all of a sudden I want to go back to where I was, it goes right to in-paint. I'd recommend going through all these different options and effects and then picking the ones you're actually going to be using all the time, and then maybe set up a folder on bookmarks called Higgsfield, and then just have those available to you all the time. So you don't have to go through so many options. If we pick one, let's go ahead and create an image as an example here. And it shows some of the images I've created. Boy, this guy looks very much like me, actually. And then let's say we wanted to create something that says here, describe the scene you imagine. So let's say we have a orca whale driving through desert street. And over here down below it says, that you can use Nana Banana. If I click on plus, it'll allow me to add the images to go with this generation. So let's say we add this image here just to see what it does, and you can add multiple images here if you wanted to. And then over here you can select which model you want to use. So that's one of the big pluses of Higgsfield. They allow you to use all these different models. You subscribe to this one place with them, and then you can use all these different models. Now obviously the costs are different depending which model you're using, so all of this is built in, but the beauty is you don't have to be jumping into different apps. You can actually utilize all the best capabilities of these different models to create images you want to create. So if I wanted to do Nana Banana, I'd use that, and that's the default because it's considered to be one of the better ones. Let's just use that as an example. And then they let you specify the screen ratio. So you can do 16 by 9, you can do 9 by 16, which would be for mobile phones, and you can do all the other ones. Let's do a square 1:1, and then over here it shows you what resolution do you want to do. And of course, that depends on the model you picked. Some models don't allow you to go with this high resolution. We're going to do 1K to try to minimize the amount of time, but you can go all the way up to 4K, as you can see. Then batch size, how many images do you want to generate? It'll generate different variants of the same image as many times as you want. But keep in mind, like right now it says generate, it'll be 2 credits. If I go and say generate 2 images, now it'll be up to 4 credits. So every time you increase number of generations, it's obviously going to cost more. As you can see, it's creating 2 images. That's cute. So it came back and said failed, and it says credits refunded. So for whatever reason, it couldn't generate it. Not sure why. Let's try retry. And then supposedly it's in queue again. So maybe it was just a little hiccup. But as you can see, it failed to. Okay, so for whatever reason, it can't generate images. Use PCS Fx for that. Let's see what we can use here. Let's drag in something like this and get rid of PCS Fx. And let's just try that. Yeah. And so I put in a little prompt here. It says the castle spins. So we have this image of this castle that I generated in PCS Fx. Yeah, cute little deal, using the miniature effect. And then it allows you to add additional images here. I put in the image that I generated using lyrics, so that looks like that. And so then I'm going to use these 2 to try to animate and see how it goes. You click generate. One of the things that it does that's a little bit disappointing is how long it takes to do this. Okay, it just keeps failing everywhere. So from time to time, apparently it is unable to do its thing. Go figure this out. Okay, we'll try something else. Maybe we'll try it a little bit later. All right, so then we go to video, and video, you got create video, you got cinema video, and you got ability to edit videos. You can do the ads, you can use Sora, you can use VO3, you can use Kling, a zillion different options in terms of what you can do, C-Dance. So all of these can be used from the video point. Let's say we do a video using VO3.1, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump. Let's get rid of these images here. I'll share some of these things I've done before. And let's maybe put in an image that looks like this as the end result. Let's grab this image here as the end result. I don't know why it dropped in the beginning, but I guess, okay. All right, so it's loading these 2 images in there. And then I'm gonna say dancer evolves into a painter. I used a couple of different effects in PCS Fx to create these. Enhancement is on. Multi-shot mode, I don't know what it is, I don't care. We got Google VO3, we're gonna do a 720p, so it's faster, and let's do a 8-second animation, okay, max. It says generate 58 credits, so I click on that, and it's gonna do its thing. Now, one of the things that I noticed in many cases when I was generating these different animations and videos, it takes quite a long time. It's one of these things that unfortunately is the reality on the ground. It all depends on how fast your computer is. It depends on how busy their servers are. It depends on the complexity and the image. It depends on the resolution. Many different things that go into why it's taking longer to process whatever you're requesting. But the bottom line is there's lots of things here that when you do it, it's going to take a while. We're not going to be sitting waiting for everything to get done. I want to do this one particular in real time just so you get an idea how long it takes to do it. We're just going to switch to watch the ones I already generated before so I don't waste your time here. Okay, so that's how long it took. And there's the initial screen. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, so it did a okay job, but definitely not what I was hoping to see. But let's play it one more time so you can see it again. It does generate both the video and the music, which is nice. Part of the problem is that it's generating it not exactly based on the prompt I had, but also it's changing a number of things. And this is something VO does. It's not because of anything Higgsfield did wrong. So it is what it is, basically. So if we try to do one more thing, and let's change from Veo to Kling and see if that works any better. Let's do Kling 2.5 Turbo. Let's generate it in Kling and generate a little higher res and see what happens. I was hoping it would be a nice smooth transition somehow from the first image to the second one, which are dramatically different, obviously. But it kind of went a little bit into weird territory there. Again, this has to do with the actual models being used, and it's not any kind of problem with Higgsfield, but it's nice that Higgsfield allows you to use all these different tools in one place. As we go through, we'll look at edit. You have many different options here, including in painting. It's got the ability to upscale. You're able to use various Nana Banana capabilities, including in painting with Nana Banana. You can do shots for product placement. Then we've got character, allows you to do things like face swapping. So what I did there was I took this image here and told it basically to swap the face with one of my photos. It actually did a very decent job. The image itself came out looking like this. As you can see, it's definitely me, number one, when I was younger, and not my body, but definitely my head. And everything else is congruent with what it was before, and it did a very nice job. Cinema Studio has a bunch of different capabilities as well, where you can do either images or videos, and you can just drop things in there. And I'll show you some examples here at this point what I used it for. So I took a picture in one local bagel shop of this, what I call Bagel Man, and then I put it here to do some animation. So this is one of them. The prompt was the guy is supposed to take the head off and then supposed to adjust his tie, and then one bagel falls off and he just completely falls apart. So that's one variant to create. As you can see, these they basically turn into donuts, but when they fall, they start out as bagels and they fall on the ground as donuts. I had a meeting with a gentleman using my one-on-one video app, and so I told him basically generally like he's coming out of his screen there. And my face obviously turns into something beyond what I can actually do, but it was kind of a cool effect. And so that was that one. This is a dog from a friend of ours who just passed away recently, unfortunately, so I wanted to create something nice from a picture of him. The leaf effect was generated in PCS Fx, and then I just wanted to kind of get that out of there and just leave just the puppies. So that was pretty cool. He did a really nice job with all these animations. I mean, if you look at this, kind of leaf kind of falls off, and it did very subtle movement in all of them in terms of the dog moving, but it's still very compelling the way it turned out. I think this is beautiful the way it did this. Then these were done, again, using PCS Fx to create a couple of screens, and then you go from the stone version of the shot into the original shot it generated. With animations, I think it did an awesome job. It looks like something from a movie, basically, to me. And this is a different variant of it. These are the kind of effects you can generate using Higgsfield, kind of videos. I think it's very compelling. Here's one that I had of a little castle, and then turned into a PCS Fx screen, and you can see it did a... Visually, it's an eye candy to me. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I love. So initial image was just this little castle, like on a penny, basically, like a little miniature, using the miniature effect in PCS Fx, and then I told it to have all these little people running around like they're dancing there, and it did a nice job. Here's another one, and this one looks different. Same concept in terms of going from that image to the PCS Fx logo. It's pretty cool. Definitely eye candy, no question. So that's those. And that's one thing I don't understand how it works, because you'd want to be able to actually play it back without downloading it first. But it looks like you have to download it to be able to play it as a video. It looks like a still image, but it's actually a video. So that's kind of weird. So this is the second video using Kling. And you can see it transformed much, much, much nicer from the first to the last. Yeah, beautiful job. Try it again. Much better than Veo in this case. It actually does the transformation. Now, gorgeous. And the guy looks exactly the way it's supposed to look. That's giving you a little bit of a glimpse into what you can do there. They have these motion control effects here. They have static, handheld, zoom out, zoom in, camera follows, pan left. So you can select all these different effects, drop them in there, and then your video will be created with your prompt. It'll create it with this movement, provided the model you're using allows it. You can indicate beginning and ending frame. So you can go from beginning to the end, or you can go from beginning forward without having any frame, or you can just basically prompt and say, this is how I want it to end, and it's going to generate something. So a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do with these. And you can generate up to 4 variants at the same time. Keep an eye on the cost. So whenever you do this, it's not free. And every time you generate, it's not like they're going to say, okay, well, if you screwed up and you generate something you don't like, then we're going to go ahead and let you do it for free. It doesn't work like that. You're still using your credits. In terms of images here, you can actually click on plus to drop images from the dialog. And one of the things they don't like is that they allow you to do things like this, where you can drag the image like that, and it'll load it, but they don't allow you to do copy and paste, which is something I do all the time in PCS Fx, because it's just easy. You just right click, copy, and then you paste it inside. So it's nice that they at least do drag and drop, but I wish they would add this other feature too. I will wrap up this little presentation just by saying, if you put aside some of these few little negatives that I mentioned and actually use it for what it is, which is a tool. It allows you to generate images and videos using a variety of different models and platforms in one place. It's a very compelling tool to use. If you're somebody who generates graphics for business, or somebody who's doing it seriously for any other purpose, this is definitely something to seriously consider subscribing to. Okay, the next effect is one of my favorites. It's called leaf art. And with leaf art, especially if you do this combination I told you about, swapping results with the original and then doing it, you can come up with some absolutely incredibly wild things, especially if you animate it afterwards. So there's an example of this image being dropped into a piece of leaf. It's pretty cool looking. But if you really play with it, like one of the images I created using leaf art was this, of me on the leaf and using one of my photos. To me, it's amazing looking that you can create stuff like that. Let's pull somebody else in here. Let's pull another lady who has a beautiful smile, and let's do a leaf art on her, and it looks like that. It's very nice, absolutely beautiful. You can see it doesn't spill. You can see where the actual leaf is, and it looks gorgeous. And then if you do, let's do it again, you'll see again a very different looking piece of leaf with the same picture in it. Now it looks like this. It looks like basically a piece of metal. To try to draw something like this would be hard to impossible, even for talented people. But with PCS Fx, you can easily create effects like this. And then I can swap it again, and then I could go back and do a marble sculpture, for example. Let's do something else. Now it's in the style of the painter, so it's back, but it's going off of this. So now you have kind of multiple different things in there. And if I swap it again and then do this effect, you just wind up having this compound over and over and over. You can still see the photo, all of that stuff still the same, but now you have more and more combination of different things entering the phrase, so to speak. And now it looks like this. And so we went from one image of this lady to a completely different end effect here by just swapping a few times and doing things like that. All right, next thing we're going to do is let's load another one using I Feel Lucky, and then see what it comes up with. Some city. Let's do miniature. It says, what do you want to do in terms of miniature? Which city do you want to do? So in this case, I'm not going to put anything. I'm just going to have it use the image to create something. And then we're going to actually put in the city so you can see what the city looks like. It uses some of the same colors, some of the same buildings, and it comes up with something that looks like a little penny. You have this particular effect. So if we do it again, you'll see a very different looking penny. It's still penny, still a little miniature, but it's going to be definitely different looking in terms of the look. Now it looks like this. Okay, again, many same elements, very similar in many ways, but also very different. So you can use it for all kinds of different things. And now let's say we wanted to do another one, and this time we want to indicate the city. We're going to use Seattle, since that's where I live, close to Seattle. Let's use Seattle. So Seattle has the Space Needle, which is one of its big attraction point, kind of a face of the city. And there it is. There's Space Needle. And we can see we have our ferries. We have our public market. If you ever been to Seattle, you can see why. We have Starbucks. So that's why that's a big deal. And then we've got lots of trees here. Mountains. We got fish, a lot of fish here, salmon. It shows different various famous things that are in the city and puts them on there. And again, if I do it again, of course, Space Needle being the center, because it's kind of one of the big things in Seattle, differentiating it from any other city. And so this one did the same thing. It still has Space Needle, still has the ferry, public market, but you can see it looks very different. It's got the mountain now, Mount Rainier, behind it. And this thing here on the right, I don't even know what it's supposed to represent, but we've got forests. Oh, I know what this is. This is the Gary Museum. It was initially going to be Jimi Hendrix Museum that Paul Allen was going to build, but it turned out to be just basically a music museum. And it's got Frank Gehry was the architect, which has these really strange shapes. So that's what this is supposed to be and stuff. So very, very cool. Okay. And of course, if we did a different city like New York, it would show you New York related things. It's pretty cool. Then we've got surprise background. So if we click on surprise background, and it's going to create some sort of very different background than what it has. This is usually better for images with people in them. It's got some elements of it, but at the same time it's got this other part in there. And if we do it again, as we said before many times, it's going to come up with something entirely different. Put another picture here. Let's do a pet thing. And let's put the surprise background. If you don't have too much stuff in there, it's much more drastic this way. Yeah, you can see, so there's background there. We do it again, makes it somewhat different. Do it again, makes it totally different. Okay, so that's the surprise background. Smart background usually does things based on whatever the actual subject is. So it figures out what the subject in the photo is, and based on that, it'll create a background where that particular subject might be. So it's kind of similar in many ways, but in many ways it's also does a different job depending on the image that you're actually using. There you go. Okay, next one is holiday theme, and that's based on dates. So depending which holiday you have close to, relatively close to the date you're currently in, it'll determine what to use as a background. So like at Christmas, it did Christmassy stuff, and now it shows New Year stuff. So there is that one. Okay, next we have grayscale, which basically just changes things to be black and white. And there it is, black and white. Monochrome tint does the same kind of thing, but it does it based on different hues. So sometimes it's pink, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's green. It just depends. And so let's go ahead, like in this case, here's purple. Okay, so it's an interesting effect to use, especially if you do combinations. Then we have hand painting, and that's a cool effect. It says display painting on the palm of open hand, and artistic style. Basically, you could put in some painter that you like I like Caravaggio a lot, so I use that. If you don't put anything in there, it's going to be random. And then it says paint uploaded image in palm. So yeah, we want to do that. And there it is. And sometimes it sticks it a little bit beyond, so if you do it again, then it keeps it within borders. In this case, it seems like it's standing there, but you have all the background, everything is still in there. Cool. So you can create a lot of different kind of cool effects by just running it several times. Let's see what it comes up with. See, now it fitted much better, like that. So that's what the hand is. And if you do hand painting and you uncheck this, do the image, and you put in the style of something like maybe, let's do Caravaggio. As good as anything else. You do Caravaggio, then you'll see what it'll generate. It'll take one of his famous paintings, and it's going to throw that onto the palm, like that. And so that's pretty cool. If we do that again, it'll look a little different because the hand will be different. So that's what that does, just a cool effect. Then we have font effect. And that's just where you put in text of some sort, and it says use the image to fill the text. Let's say we do use the image in this case, and we say create. Now, basically what it is, it created the text I put in, but it put the image inside the letters, and that's what it looks like. And I can put obviously more text than that, but I wanted to show you how it'll make it big if it's a little bit of text, and if it makes it smaller if it's more. But the image behind would be whatever the image is. So if you wanted to load a different image, let's say we want to do I Feel Lucky. And so we have something that has a little bit more both color and imagery inside, like that. And we go into the font effect and try it again, then it looks like this. If we don't do it, if we don't say fill it, then it will look something like this. We're just going to create a font to indicate it, but in a very creative manner. This is one way to generate logos. I mean, we have a special logo effect too, but this is another way to generate logos if it's just text. There's PCS this way. Do that again. You can do this all day long. It's going to be different colors, different shapes. Some of it is crazy. Some of it is usable, useful. And that's how the font effect works. Now the next effect is logo design. That's where basically you go from there and generate logos. So we click on logo design. You can give it a topic. So in my case, let's say AI consulting, for example, and logo text would say, let's say PCS. So now what it's going to do is going to actually use those two parameters to create a logo for me. So there it is right there. So it's got PCS inside written. It says AI consulting. Okay, so that's definitely a useful logo. Do that again, and it's going to show us this kind of logo, definitely different than the last one was, and very much usable. I mean, you can see how nice this looks with the background part and all the different colors here, and it says AI here. Perfect spelling, absolutely perfect. This one's not quite as compelling, but you basically need to try and play with it. And then once more, we swap and we go to any of the other effects. Let's do, for example, stone sculpture. And now it looks something like this. And this looks impressive, if you ask me. That is a cool looking image of somebody's logo like that. And if I do it again, puts it on a slab of stone, has some color in there. That looks awesome. That's a museum piece right there. Looks great. So that's the logo effect. The next one is a quote effect. Now the quote effect was specifically designed to come up with quotes, famous quotes. So for example, quote text would be, let's say, to be or not to be. Let's say we use that, and then the author would be Shakespeare. And it says here, sketch uploaded image, unchecked to sketch author. So I want author, I don't want the image. And so I'll do that, and it looks like this. So it's got his name there, it's got the actual quote, and it's got his picture. I didn't have to supply the picture, it knows how to get the picture. That's basically totally postable as a quote from somebody famous. Or somebody not famous, like I put some of my stuff with my picture and my image there. So there is a different image of old Bill there and the quote. So that's what the quote effect does. Then we have QR effect, and QR effect can do a couple of different things. Number one, you can put in URL. So I'm going to put my website. And number two, it says center text up to 5 characters. So let's say start with the word PCS in there. You can have 5 characters. I'm just going to use the PCS, and that's what it looks like. If you scan this particular QR code, you'll see my website come up on your phone. Okay? Nice, simple, no problem. Alternatively, you can go with plan B, and you can say do another QR code. By the way, if I re-rolled it again, it would be a different color. Same QR code, but different color. If I do this, and I say use uploaded image, now it actually took this, dropped it obviously into a little box inside, but it still should pull up my web page if you scan this particular code. So you can do both with images, and you can do it with text inside the actual QR code. There's a bunch of programs out there that allow you to do this and charge you money for doing it. PCS Fx, you can do all of this for one price, basically, all these effects. The reason it has a bunch of this border stuff around it is because the image is like this. So if you have the image filling up most of the screen, it'll fill up most of the stuff here. But from a statical standpoint, you might want to leave a little bit of a padding. We're going to go to the next one, which is Song Dive. The way this works is you put in title, like let's put in Bohemian Rhapsody. And the artist would be Queen, in this case. And we say create. And create something that looks like, there it is. We got a guy that kind of looks like Freddy. Certainly looks like Freddy. And it's got all these different things that are basically what it does. It looks at lyrics of the song, and based on it, it generates an image. So let's do another one. Let's do Beatles is my favorite group, so let's do the Beatles. And we'll do, let's see, it'll be a good song from the Beatles. There's Fool on the Hill for you. And if we wanted to re-roll it again, now it looks like this. Fool on the Hill. And let's do another song. Let's do Yellow Brick Road by Elton John. See what that looks like. And that's what it looks like. As you can see, you got references to Wizard of Oz. And you got the castle here, and you got the Yellow Brick Road. Try it again, and it looks like this. The final effect is text overlay. Let's say we wanted to add a piece of text. Something like a piece of text there. And now it looks like this. It took this image and dropped it in there. Obviously it doesn't look good like this, so we go ahead and click on it again. And we go with dark gloss instead. It looks like this. And if you don't want it there, you can change it to be top center. It looks like that. Okay. And on this particular image, it doesn't look too great, but if you load something else, and on that we want to do a text overlay, and thank you, the duality glass here, and we got something like this. Okay. In fact, let's do middle center, just like that. Now you have your ending screen right there. It looks exactly like I wanted it to look. You can still see a little bit of background image behind the box, but it's very readable this way. With that, that's the end of this demo of all the effects in PCS Fx. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. I'll also have a link where you can obtain your own copy of PCS Fx and do your own magic creations with it. Oh yeah, before we go though, I forgot the top stuff here. Let's get back for a second. One of the things you can do now is you can do combo. And what combo does, it allows you to select two effects. So I'm going to select, let's say, this one and select this one here. And then I'm going to go ahead and say apply combo. From all the effects you have available, it'll run both of these effects by combining them. So it's going to do one effect, then do equivalent of a swap, and then do the second effect. A lot of times it's helpful if you know what two effects you like to use on things. Then instead of selecting it, swapping, and selecting the second one, you can just use the combo every time and apply these two effects. It's going to do all of them with a single click. And this is what it looks like when you combine the two. Okay, so that's an example of two effects. You can do anything you want, obviously. If we select a black and white chalk, and we select stone sculpture, select that just to show you one more combo. That'll make it look probably dramatically different. Or sometimes it doesn't. When you have a lot of detail like this one does, it doesn't really do much. Yeah, I don't know if it did anything. The first one obviously clearly worked, but the second one, I'm not sure how much it changed. But you can see it definitely looks very different. And you have to play with it. If we want to see dramatic changes, if we go with caricature, and then let's go with this one as an example. This should give us a different look. It's taking twice as long to do this as normal because we're doing two effects. So it has to do one, it has to do the other one. There we go. We get a little caricature, little butterflies turn into some little flying machines. And yeah, definitely looks different than the original there. Okay, so that's the combo. The AutoFx is the automation part. Think of it as the AI agent. Goes out there and does multiple things for you. And to make it as easy to use as possible, you can select any effect you want, and you can do this effect as many times as you want. So the question is, why would you do that? Do the same effect over and over and over? The reason is because the actual results are different every time you do it. So it still makes sense to do it. But what I usually do is I use the random, which means it'll select random effects. And then I select number of iterations. So let's do 5, that's fine. You can do anywhere from 2 to 20. And then it says evolve on the screen, which means it'll do the swap. On each iteration, it'll swap stuff. So let's go ahead and try to do 5 effects on this particular image here and see what it comes up with in the end. When you actually set it up and start it like this, then you can just go ahead and go to lunch or do whatever you want to do. I mean, it's not going to take that long, but basically you don't have to do anything is the point. And then you can see it shows processing 1 of 5, and it says processing 2 of 5. Each iteration, whatever it creates, it saves it automatically. So you don't have to worry about, oh my God, this looks so cool after number 3 and I lost it. No, you're not going to lose anything. If you tell it to create 20 images, it'll create 20 images. but it's going to go through them automatically like this. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we have 3 of 5, it says, and so it's relatively quick. And of course, it creates different effects every time. So like right now, it's working on vibrant color pencil on the iteration number 3. And then number 4 is going to be notebook sketch. And number 5 is going to be something else. We'll see here shortly. And then once it gets all 5 done, then we're going to look at them and see what they look like. Okay, so now all of them are done. And I'm going to go ahead and load one at a time, showing you basically the transformation, what happened, and show you 5 different basically images to give you an idea. So this is the end result here, right there, after all 5 iterations. Here's one of them. Okay, you can see based on the original thing, it looks dramatically different than this original on the left. Okay, number 2 looks like this. So somewhat different. Certainly all of them are different. Just the question of how much and what exactly. The next one looks like this, which is almost the same, so I didn't do too much on this one. Next one looks like this, which is the notebook sketch effect, but without the lines. It looks very compelling to me, and very, very nice. And then the last one, the 5th one, looks like that. So again, you have all the elements of the original in there. It's not like it's changing the image. But at the same time, it looks dramatically different. We went from looking like this image here to things that look like this, which is completely different in terms of colors, in terms of textures, things like that. That's what AutoFx does. And you can do this as many times as you want. The only drawback to this approach is that if you select random like I did, it'll obviously do random effects every time, and you don't have any control. So one of the things I was thinking about potentially expanding the combo to be able to indicate more than just 2. And basically you can then control exactly, if you want to do 10 iterations, automatically it'll do it, but you can actually tell it which 10 iterations you want to do. Because the AutoFx deal right now, you can specify one effect or you can do random. You can do specific effects 10 times. So anyway, that's PCS Fx for you. Again, thank you for taking the time to watch it and listen. If you have any questions or suggestions, ideas, I'm always glad to hear those. And just leave them down below in the comments. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to discuss things directly. And if you want to purchase it, it'll be down below the video as well. And until next time, I'm Oleg.
Try PCS Fx. You'll love it!